There was an RTI request by India today as a right to information. And right to information, we wanted to know whether if there has been any hydrological data sharing between India and China on river Brahmaputra. And the response we received was that since 2022, that has stopped. Now, Victor, we wanted to understand, is or was Galwan a catalyst to see the kind of breakdown that we saw between India and China, especially on the Brahmaputra front?
Well, I would say China-Indian cooperation will be absolutely important for both China and India. We need to do our best to put the territorial disputes behind our two countries and try to figure out a way to better cooperate with each other for mutual benefit. Now, what Indian call Brahmaputra is what China called Yaluzangpujiang in Tibet, which is a mighty river. And I think while inside Tibet, it flows from the west to the east. When it reaches the extreme point in the east, it makes a bigger bend and eventually flows into India. I think China and India need to come up with a protocol so that water in the Brahmaputra or China's Yaluzangpujiang can be better managed. I think this becomes more important because of recent Indian government's attempt to divert water from the Indus River, try to deprive the people in Pakistan who live in the downstream of Indus River the benefit of water. So I think hopefully China and India and hopefully the three parties, China, India, and Pakistan, will be able to sit down to talk about how to better use the water in the different rivers, Brahmaputra in the east and the Indus River in the west. Now, allow me to emphasize one point. Most of the river eventually flowing into India originate in Tibet. So I think China is in a very important position, and hopefully we will be able to talk about this and find a mutually accepted solution.
You make a very, very important point over here, Victor. Are you telling me that Beijing and the thought process in Beijing is that should India use the Indus Waters Treaty to leverage or arm twist Pakistan, that Beijing will come to Pakistan's rescue and as an upper riparian in the Brahmaputra, do what it needs to do to ensure that India does not do what it intends to do with Pakistan?
Well, a couple of points. One is that China will never do what India is doing against the people in Pakistan, try to deny water in the Indus River to the people in the downstream in Pakistan. Now, I understand between India and Pakistan, there was a water treaty involving the waters in the Indus River. Now, despite of the commitments by the Indian government is still threatening and also actually doing the diversion of the water. Now, this to me is a very serious problem. Now, for the three countries, China, India, and Pakistan, and as far as Pakistan is concerned, it mostly involved the water in the Indus River in the west. But between China and India, we actually share the same rivers, both in the west as well as in the east, mostly Brahmaputra, as you call it, and Yaluzangpujiang, as we call it, in China. I think either between China and India or between India and Pakistan, and because China is on the upper stream for the Indus River, we need to really talk it out rather than see the very tragic situation involving denying water in the Indus River to the people in the downstream in Pakistan. Because in China, we have a saying, thousands of years old, don't do unto others what you do not want others do unto you. China is on the upper stream. That's a reality. And I do not want to see India in the midstream doing funny things against the people in Pakistan on the downstream. And peaceful cooperation will be absolutely necessary between China and India and between India and Pakistan as far as water in these mighty rivers is concerned.
Right. Victor, I did not mean that China would do anything to the Indus. What I was trying to ask you is that should India stop waters of the Indus, is China going to use Brahmaputra against India so that to come to the rescue of Pakistan? Is the Pakistan relationship that important?
You're raising a hypothetical question. I think China-Pakistani friendship is ironclad, and China will not allow any violation of Pakistan's legitimate interest in defending its sovereignty and territorial integrity, including peaceful use of the water in the Indus River, especially because of the treaty between India and Pakistan about the allocation of the water in the Indus River. That's number one. Number two is that between China and India, we share the same river, and China is on the upper stream, India is on the downstream, both in the western part as well as in the eastern part. I hope we will figure out a way to peacefully allocate water in these mighty rivers, rather than being subjected to the specter of having water being diverted or being denied to the people in the midstream or in the downstream. It is sufficient for me to emphasize one again. Don't do unto others what you do not want others do unto you. That's very important, especially because India is not really in the upper stream. India is, generally speaking, in the midstream of these mighty rivers. So don't try to do things to the people in the downstream because you never know what will be done to you. Be peaceful with your neighbor rather than be otherwise.
It sounds less like an advice, more like a threat. Is that what it is? Is this what's Beijing's message to India?
Now, I think my advice is always good intentions, and I hope people in India will listen to my advice. That is, allow me to repeat for the third time, don't do unto others what you don't want others to do unto you.
Are you saying India will pay for it?
Well, I've said to disregard treaty obligations and to deny water to the people in the downstream against the treaty obligation is, in peacetime, a crime against humanity. In wartime, it may be considered as a war crime. So this is very serious because you're talking about millions of the people in the downstream who may be denied the use of water. And because 70% of a human body is composed of water, if you deny human beings of the use and the benefit of water, you are really killing them. You are denying them living standards and livelihood in the most basic form. So I hope the government in India will be really rational enough in never saying, you will never get a drop of water unless you do certain things to me. No, never use water in the Indus River as a blackmail against the people in Pakistan.